Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about lesson 6, masks and channels. Now this lesson, normally during this normal semester, is one of the trickier ones for the students to complete. I'm usually having to help out a lot with this at the computers here in the classroom. So go ahead and make sure to give yourself plenty of time to complete this lesson and you know, I would start on it right away instead of leaving it to the last minute, especially since you have a project associated with this lesson. It's going to be a little trickier to do, so go ahead and give yourself some extra time. Again, I'll be available for emails or text messages or however you want to get in contact with me if you have questions, but it shouldn't be too hard. The book says it takes about an hour. I think it might take you a little longer. We'll see. But good luck with it. Hopefully this will help you out a little bit. I'm going to walk you through the first 2 or 3 things in here. We'll create a mask, we'll refine a mask, and we'll, let's see, what else will we do? We might manipulate an image with Puppet Warp and work with channels to create a shadow. And then the rest of the stuff you guys can do on your own, pretty straightforward. So, what is a mask or channel? Well, masks in Photoshop isolate and protect parts of an image, just as you use masking tape to protect window panes and trim when you paint your house. When you create a mask based on a selection, the area you haven't selected is masked off or protected from editing. So with masks, you can create and save time-consuming selections and then use them again. In addition, you can use masks for other complex editing tasks in Photoshop. For example, you can apply color changes or filter effects to an image. So a key concept in masking is that black hides and white reveals. As in life, rarely anything is black and white. So shades of gray partially hide depending on the gray levels. So to get started today, I opened up 06start.psd, and it's a picture of this guy here on this background. And what we want to do is erase the background using masks so that he's on top of this here. So what we need to first do, the book talks about under creating a mask, is to use the quick selection tool. So again, that's located up here underneath, well actually it's the first tool here, the quick selection tool. And the book has you set your brush size to these specific numbers. 15 pixels is the size of your brush. The hardness is at 100%, and the spacing it doesn't really define, so we'll just use that there. So as you can see, that's located up here in the options bar. And when you use the quick selection tool again, you just kind of start to draw. And as you can see, it picked up a lot of his face. It didn't pick up his eyeglasses, so I'll kind of paint that back in. It picked up his nose there. Might get a little bit closer in his eyeglasses there. I'm going to also go down to his shirt and start to paint in his shirt. Not necessarily paint in, but quick select his shirt. Now that looks pretty good. We have this quick selection made, and we'll go ahead and mask this off. So at the bottom of the layers panel, click the add layer mask button. That's this button here to create a layer mask. Boom, there you go. That's pretty awesome. So we can see if we turn this on here, the background, the magazine background, he's now against the orange background, and the foreground that was there is now gone. But what we need to do is clean up edges like this in his hair and around his face and around his shirt. It doesn't look too believable at the moment, so we need to actually refine the edge there. So what I'm going to do is unclick that and then come in here, make sure our mask is selected in our layer, and go into mask edge and start to refine this edge. So what we want to do here is do a few things. We want to adjust the edge to smooth it out and make it look a little more believable. In the book, it has you do certain numbers that they found to be best for this, but it depends on what you're masking off to what you'll set your adjust edges to. And you can kind of play with the sliders and see what happens. But in the book, they have you do 15 for smooth, and then for contrast is 40%, and they want you to shift the edge -8%. As you can see, it already looks a little bit better, like around his nose, around his hair. But we still need to clean it up some more. So make sure to do this first. In the output area of the dialog box, select Decontaminate Colors and choose New Layer with Mask as an output to. So when we when we decontaminate colors, this replaces color fringes with the color of fully selected pixels nearby. Because it changes the pixel color, though, this option requires you to output a new layer or document. So when we hit OK in the end, this will select a new, or it'll create a new layer over here that we'll have to then work off of that one. The next thing you want to do is refine the mask a little bit more with the Refine Radius tool. And that's here, located over here in our dialog box. With this tool, we can make the size of the brush bigger and smaller using open and closed bracket. And then we want to go around like these portions of his face that aren't too clean, where there's a little bit of white of the background still showing. And you might want to go in there with a smaller brush if it's just a little bit you want to take care of. So there's little areas here and there that you want to take care of. Part of his glasses here, a little further in there. And then maybe around here is part of his glasses too. That looks actually really good. A little bit there. There's this tiny bit, and I like to seem to get rid of it. Can't quite get rid of this little space in between his lips, but that's okay. We'll let that go. Here underneath his nose. That looks a lot better. So now that we've done all that and you're satisfied with the mask around the face, click OK. And this will pop up a new layer over here. So with this layer active, again, we're going to click Mask Edge in the Properties panel to open the Refine Mask dialog box. And now we're going to choose on white. So we're going to try and clean up the area of his hair. As you can see, the white behind his hair is a different shade of white than the white that surrounding him. So we can kind of see these areas here. Now what we're going to do with this is we're going to select the Refine Radius tool again here. And we're going to make the brush bigger, and the book has you do about 300. If you can go up here and look at your size, and as I make my brush bigger with my my close bracket button key, it's up to 300 pixels. So now the book has you to begin brushing along the top of the hair high enough to include the spikes. So up here, as you can see, this picks up some of these spiky areas of his hair. So we want to decrease the size a little bit to kind of get maybe a little more fine refinements here. This actually looks pretty good though. Let's make sure we get everything there. Perfect. Up a little bit more there. That's looking really good. So now, now that we did that, as we paint, Photoshop is refining the mask edge, including the hair, but eliminating most of the background. We actually want to come in here with the Erase Refinements tool, and areas where the background's starting to show through, just click on that. And that took away a little bit too much, so I'll Command Z out of that, make my brush a little smaller, and then click maybe just a little close, further away from the hair to kind of erase that background again. We want to decontaminate colors once again and select this up to 85% as per the book. And once we're happy with all that, we can hit OK once again. That's looking really good now. So in the book, the next thing they have you do is create a quick mask. We're going to skip over that. I'm going to go directly into, you guys want to make sure to do that though. I'm going to go directly into manipulating an image with Puppet Warp. Now, Puppet Warp is a really neat feature. It helps you actually kind of, essentially what it says, you kind of create a puppeting effect, so you can actually move parts of your image. To do that, you're going to be able to zoom out so you can see the entire model, and then go to Edit, Puppet Warp, and it sets this mesh over top of your model here. And you want to set pins along the areas you don't want to move. So these are kind of like anchor pins or stabilizing pins. I'm going to set these all along the top of his shirt, or the edges of his shirt. Because what I'm actually doing, or going to do, is tilt his head back using Puppet Warp. So this is pretty interesting and fun to do. I might be setting too many pins here. You might be able to set a few less. But what I want to do is come over top of this pin here, and we're actually going to rotate his head backwards. And you want to go ahead and use Option or Alt. I think it's Option. Yes, the rotate key. I'm going to rotate his head back using this key. Oh, it's set to there. Actually, you want the, see this one down here has this white dot in the center. You make sure the pin you're using has a white dot, and now we can use this to set his head back. And the book has you do it's about 135. Make it a little more drastic if you want. If you go too far, his head goes forward. It looks pretty good there. And then just hit return when you're done and like that result. So as you can see, this is before and after. You've actually warped his head. Kind of looks like he's headbanging there. So that's the puppet warp. You want to go ahead and save your work so far. Command S or Control S. Save your work to this point. The next thing we're going to do is use an alpha channel to create a shadow. So we've already created a mask of the model. To create a shadow, we'll want to essentially duplicate that mask and then shift it. And we'll use an alpha channel to make that possible. So in the Layers panel, Control click on a Windows or Command click on a Mac, the layer icon in the model layer. The mask area is selected. So we'll do that, and you see how we have a new selection around here. So that's a shortcut to select or make a selection of the masked area. Now we want to choose Select, Save Selection up here. There's our selection, and we'll call this the model outline. And then click OK. This doesn't change anything in the Layers panel or in the image window. However, a new channel named Model Outline has been added to the channels. Panel. So if we go over here to our Layers panel, nested underneath the Layers panel is a Path panel and a Channels panel. And there's our model outline down here. So we can see, so we can always go back and pick this up again if we want to. So we want to create a new layer icon. Create a new layer using the Create a New Layer icon. That's located down here. And that creates a new layer. We want to rename this Shadow. So double click on it and type in Shadow. I typed in Shadow. Shadow with a W. There we go. And then we'll move this shadow layer below our model layer because the shadow will be behind him or below him. And once we've done that, we want to make sure the shadow layer is active, and then we want to refine the edge. So to do that, choose Select, Refine Edge, and this will let us refine the edge of that shadow. And the book has you shift the edge to plus 36%. That's actually making the selection larger. So as you know, when a shadow occurs, it kind of can enlarge your shadow. It kind of fades out. It doesn't have a hard edge. So what we want to do is make the shadow edge a little larger, and then click OK. And now, once we do that, we want to actually fill in that selection with a color, and the color will be black. So to do that, we go to Edit, Fill, and then we'll pick black from the Contents menu. You might have Content Aware pre-selected. Make sure you click on Contents and go down to black. And we want to reduce the opacity. We can do that now or later. Let's hit OK. Excuse me. And as you can see, there's a black shadow behind him. If I turn off the model layer, you see this black shadow. We want to reduce the opacity of the shadow, so we can go up here to our opacity slider and reduce that down to 30%. There we go, it's at 30% now. It isn't in the right position, right? So the shadow is directly behind the model. We want to kind of offset the shadow a little bit so it looks like he's actually casting a shadow. To do that, first we want to deselect the selection. You can hit Command D on your keyboard, or Command or Control D on your keyboard, or go to Select, Deselect up here in your menu. And now we're going to move this shadow. So to do that, we want to go to Edit, Transform. So make sure the shadow layer is still selected. Go to Edit, Transform, and then Rotate. And here we can begin to move the shadow. So the book has you again has these kind of predetermined numbers, and they do -15 degrees. So that's up here. We're going to go. This is your little degrees area. We're going to go -15 degrees, and then as you move the X, so the position component, to 845. And then, oops, that's a huge number. Let's do 845. Hit return. Now, as you can see, there's a little bit of shadow peeking out over here. We just need to move him over just a little bit. And that looks a little better. And now he's actually casting the shadow. And then we'll hit return or enter or check mark up here. And now we have a cast shadow. So now if we turn on our background layer, we can start to see this thing really come together. The book's going to have you do adjust an individual channel. It's going to have you change the hair color of our model here. And then it's going to have you save it. And that will be it for this lesson. So if you have any questions, again, email me or message me.